I'm ready. Why are you shirtless, honey? Honey, why are you shirtless?
We turned it into an OnlyFans while you were gone.
Get these fucking listeners and viewers and subscribers. You gotta work with what you got.
Get naked, boo.
Okay.
Are you next? Let's do it. Everybody, let's get naked.
That's the answer.
Ready?
That's the answer.
That's the answer.
That's it. Girls.
Ladies. I was kidding. So let's just say I killed that game and the game was skewed in the gamer's favor. And what is that not a metaphor if not for justice? How they'll skew the system so you can't win.
Absolutely.
Speaking of games that are skewed, Ballroom.
Hey, yo.
Shit.
I did want to talk about the fact that
Shit.
I introduced you as the real Ryan Gosling because you have a different name in Ballroom.
Amen. I do.
If you want to talk about that name
Sure.
and why you chose it.
Amen. Yes. I love that every time I answer a question, I feel like I'm a minister. Anyway, so my ballroom name is Kingston. And the reason why it's Kingston is because I'm from Kingston. Well, at least I was born and raised in Palm Beach, Florida. But my parents immigrated here in their mid-20s and had me and my sister. And we're from Stony Hill, Kingston, Jamaica. Big up on the south, west side, you know that. But yeah, so I felt like as an extension of myself in this space, I wanted it to be different than who I am because I feel like in a lot of ways in Ballroom you have to keep a sense of self and keep an understanding of the dimension in which you're entering. So I feel like it was fun being able to be like, I can be somebody who's still close to me, but other than who Ryan exactly is.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel like Ryan Gosling is different than Kingston?
That's interesting. I feel like Ryan Gosling comes with the I don't think that there's much difference in terms of like the full encompassing of my masculine energy when I am Kingston versus, and not to say that bitch, I have multiple people living in me, like let's be for real.
These bitches always have something to say about a performance, but I haven't seen a performance yet from that girl right there. I haven't seen one yet. So let's see if she sees me in the back because I'm walking in every category tonight.
No, it's just like in certain environments, I play up certain parts of myself that I do love that naturally come and go. And I think that Ryan is the full experience of who I am, both the intellectual, the artist, the passionate overthinker, the anxious attachment style who's transitioning and learning not to fear abandonment. Like all the different complexities of who I am show up as Ryan. As Kingston, I don't always put those complexities on the forefront because I'm not as receptive sometimes to inviting people into the full vulnerability of who I am, because you have to be protective of who you are in certain environments, especially like Ballroom, because it is a game, right, at the end of the day.
How many categories do you walk in Ballroom?
Only walk one. Well, technically two. I walk executive realness and everyday realness.
And what's your thoughts on realness when it comes to around masculinity,
right,
and presenting it?
Right. And that's so funny. That's a loaded question because that's one of the reasons why I joined the house I joined, because I had a perception of what realness was. And my dad kind of opened my eyes. My gay dad, shout out to the Icon Bugs. My gay dad kind of reframed my mindset around why realness is a category. And it's more of like an examination on resistance as opposed to a celebration of the patriarchy. I think that so many people, when they perceive realness, it's like, oh, we're prioritizing masculinity, we're fetishizing the black male trope and masculinity showing up in a certain way. And it's like, no, a lot of this is like how we present on a regular day basis, just as a byproduct of culture, right? Like a lot of our experience were shaped that we weren't allowed to express different variations of our identity in the home just based off being black. And in a lot of ways, I felt like in my coming of age experience, I always saw that as like a downside, that I felt like maybe I missed out on being able to play with the way that I may have showed up in the world had I not experienced trauma being queer or identifying as gay. And I think that walking realness allows us to weaponize some of that trauma, and release it, and not have to feel insignificant or distant from queer culture just because of of a masculine portrayal.
Right. Yeah, because I feel like masculinity may get a bad rap sometimes. Like, it's not inherently
Problematic.
bad.
Right, exactly.
It does have a function and a role in society.
Yeah.
And in life,
It's attached to other negative traits, right?
For sure.
It's just it's by way of, okay, we know masculine people to be all these other things too.
Right.
Masculine is just one small facet
Right.
Yeah.
of them. There's other things. I think the way you just explained it was like the most elevated, eloquent way I've ever heard realness be portrayed. Because for me, like when I went to 3 rehearsals, I didn't like being critiqued on not being able to walk straight. It felt like being back in the backyard at home in Maryland, where my mom was making fun of the way I walk and the way I talk, and other people and throughout my life. So being in that space, and this is about 4 years ago, coming out of the pandemic, being in that space, one, I was very appreciative to be, at a rehearsal for in Ballroom, but like the critiques and the criticism wasn't for me, because it was kind of like, I don't know, the word triggering makes sense. It wasn't as triggering as it was just like, I don't have to be here. I was like,
now, friend, can you hold my hand?
I can sit in my walk.
Friend, do you feel like that is a reflection of your Leoisms, as we have discussed, or is that like the byproduct of? Was it more like I don't like critiques, or versus I don't like someone putting my masculinity under a magnifying glass?
I think it was a good.
Both.
I don't really care for critiques now, but
right. Come on.
No, I don't care for critiques. I don't like critiques.
Right.
It will.
Now it's giving face, it's giving body, it's giving all of the categories.
I mean, like if I went up there and I said I was going to cook for you, and you were like, "Oh, this is terrible," I'd be like, "Oh yeah, you should critique me on how bad this." But back to what you were saying, it was the masculinity thing, because just like you said before, this has also been my armor for years in and years out. Like I remember the day one of joining in the military, and I was like, "What the fuck did I just do?" Now I'm gonna have to be something, and in order to blend in and not get beat up, and it worked, but. At that time, I was like, not for me.
Right, because it's not by force.
It's not by force.
Honey,
I was like, honey, I don't have to be here. I was biking up to the Bronx.
I could go sissy my ass back down to where I live. And go pet my dog.
Yeah. If that's not mass enough, watch me put this skirt on tonight. Right. Doing something.
I mean, the interesting thing to me about, because it's been probably like half a year, like 6 months walking realness at this point, is like, you do at least I reached a point where I realized that Ballroom is a place for creative expression, but at the same time, it's very much do it like this.
Yeah.
There are lots of constraints.
Yeah.
And
not inherently, but there is strategies that are inherently imposed that oftentimes means the winner the loss. Like, you could do whatever.
You can do whatever you want.
You can do whatever.
But if you want to win,
you
got to do it like this.
You got to do it like this.
You kind of got to do it just like this.
Yes. I would be doing whatever I want, and the house would lose, and I'd be getting like.
And sometimes going against the grain works in your favor.
Yeah.
It just all depends on, who's on that panel that day and what's going on, and, how committed you are to establishing yourself within the scene. Because one thing I will acknowledge is that despite Ballroom being a game, what I've at least observed in the short time that I've been there is that, like, if they'll value consistency. If you
True.
Look, what's her name? Josephine.
Listen,
she
Josephine
went to
getting her LSS.
Look, she be getting
OTA, like.
So look, they will go up for you if you are committed, right?
Yeah.
So I think Ballroom is unique in that there's a space for everyone. There's literally categories for everyone. There's breakdowns for everyone. It's just navigating where you are supposed to be. Because, like, even though I know a lot of niggas that are real, I know a lot of femme queens that are real as fuck, but just don't like the idea, and they would win. Don't like the idea of somebody judging or assessing the way that they move in society, right? Like that's just, for some people, is just a no-go, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And you've also had, I would say, some success walking realness. How many grand prizes are we at right now?
You know, here and there. You know, I haven't walked like no major balls, but I just
you
have
gotta celebrate your accomplishments.
Yeah.
You know? Whether it's big or small.
Like,
why do you?
Yeah.
Do you have thoughts about why you win?
I'm relatively attractive. I have a beard, and my shout out to the Icon Bugs. I think that I'm very much so starting to learn how to sell my realness as opposed to just being real. I think that within the category, a lot of boys get bogged down because they're like, I'm real, why aren't I winning? I'm real. But at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of niggas that are real. Yeah, like you gotta sell it to the judges. You gotta do what you gotta do. Like, you gotta play into the character of who of what they're trying to attract.
So for a lot of people, they would probably have to study for me, I would have to study more masculine characters. My whole thing has been Beyonce my entire life. You know how I was walking,
right?
But like, you know how I was walking. But then I realized, like, okay, this is a character study of like something that, whether it's how you move in the world day to day, but also maybe you need to change something up to make it more what they're looking for, as far as an audition, I guess.
Yes,
I don't know that, but that's how I feel like it's being explained.
Exactly.
Yeah. Be entertaining.
You are selling a product. You are selling a product, right?
Even, which I find to be the hardest thing about, I'm walking up here convincing you that I'm straight and that I'm an executive, and I'm also putting on a show, that I'm also entertaining you. So once I crack the code,
right? And some
over.
niggas you just can't beat. Some
right.
niggas you just can't beat.
Some people, there's people who do realness,
right?
And there's people who's real.
You know what I'm saying? It's just some niggas that it's like, well, I don't know. I think everybody's beatable, but sometimes, depending on who you are, bro, it's just like you're not getting that win. It's more about like finding when it's your moment and how to make moments out of your own experience. There's been plenty of times where I've walked balls, haven't won, but my phone will be blowing up with new followers, new interactions with new people who support my ballroom career or see it for me or whatever that means for ballroom. So it's more or less about like the why behind you're doing realness and why you're a part of the community in the first place. And if the why is building a genuine community, creating a network of people who are fucking talented out the ass, who are networked into the literal industry as it is, then you're gonna do great. If your goal is to win every time, then you're gonna be frustrated with ballroom.
Yeah. You're a person of multiple talents. You have multiple careers. You're also a teacher as well. I know earlier you mentioned consistency. So how do you take everything that you do in ballroom, because it is consistency? If you're winning and you're constantly showing up, that's consistency. How do you take that and translate that into like youth and young scholars to? Because you're a dance teacher. Tell us about the teaching.
So yeah, as a teacher and coach, I teach and coach speech and debate, which is just performance advocacy. So what they do is that they take arguments that are relative to social injustice issues and they find literature that is referential or communicates that struggle. So for instance, if I wanted to talk about the war on drugs, right, I might perform a scene from Snowfall. If I wanted to talk about increasing media representation of black people on screen, I might perform Black Panther and be like, here's a representation of when black people were on screen and the movie did well and it created all this new conversation around black media representation, right? So that's what I do. To get kids bought in, I kind of had to flex a little bit, right? Like in this day and age of Donald Trump cutting Department of Education, access to higher education is getting more limited. I went to school for free to debate, right? And then out of that, I had a lot of trajectory in terms of my ability to coach incredible talent. So I'm a 4-time national champion, 11-time national finalist, and I've coached no slight play.
Yes.
You know, and I've coached 2 national champions. So when I come in day one, I let all my kids know you're going to be a national champion whether you like it or not. And I'm one of those teachers that I'm your best friend, but I'm not. I mean, I guess this bleeds over into like my personal life. I'm your best friend, but at the same time, I'm gonna always hold you accountable. And the expectation is always gonna be greatness. And if I know you as an individual and I know what you're capable of, I'm never gonna let you misrepresent yourself. And my kids buy into that. They like the idea that somebody believes in them and is willing to, at some points, chastise them to get the best result. So
it says on here, can you tell us about a time your kids had you fucked up?
Oh,
that's what the question
my God! Oh my God!
Can you tell us about it?
Oh my God! Oh my God! There's so many stories, bro.
Okay.
All right, you want to know? All right, so this is, bro, Okay, so I teach inner city New York kids from Harlem.
Oh, me too.
I love my babies. Those are my babies. They know I'll do whatever. I'll go up for my kids. I advocate for my kids, and I'm willing to go to bat if I feel like there's scenarios where they're being mishandled or whatever. That they already know. I'm the debate teacher. I'm your personal lawyer, right? When it's convenient, when it's necessary. Excuse me. There was one time I was in class, right, and we was playing a game. We got to go in a circle, and while we in the circle, this one boy, who's like the class clown, basically. He's over here talking, so I'm joking with him. I'm like, Tucker, because they got to wear uniform. I'm like, Tucker, your shirt, you look ugly. That's why no girls don't like you, right? He's like, Coach G, I pull more girls than you. Why my student gonna say, Coach G don't even pull girls. He pulls boys.
Well.
I said,
Wait, clocked?
I said, what? I was so ashamed.
Well.
Oh my God. I don't
Because
know
I couldn't be like, why? I couldn't. My first reaction was to be like I was back in middle school. I'm not gay. What do you mean gay? You know what I mean? Gay.
No, gay.
And
You know what to fuck me.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I don't like women. I'm gay.
You're not gay. You're not gay. You just don't want to fuck me. I mean, I know a gay man when I see one. I know what a gay guy looks like. My brother is gay. And he's gay. And he is gay. Merde.
That moment, you know that meme where that friend's like, he's not gay, he just does that because he plays tennis. Or like because he just sounds like that because like he grew up with women. You know, I felt like one of those moments.
No,
There was
gay.
always the girl who was
Right.
For me, it was my sister. Because the
See?
people used to call me gay all the time. They'd be
And
like,
my sister,
he not gay, he just different.
Right.
This is
That
different.
part.
I love her. That's
Right.
like Vita. Come on.
Shout out to Vita.
No funny. So like, long story short, I mean, obviously I reprimanded her because I was like, little girl, you just passed the boundary. First of all, I wasn't even talking to you. Second of all, mind your business. Third of all, I laughed it off and addressed it because it was also like, I didn't want to create a perception of homophobia.
Yeah.
Like that, but like, yes, guys, I am a gay man, you know, and my kids, and I play with my kids. And I think that's why there's like a nuance because with my boys, like with the guys in the class, I do treat them not differently or interact or communicate with them differently as opposed to the girls. So the girls, I'll be like, girl, your edges, girl. What's going on? You know, playing with them. And with the bros, it's always like, you know, I'm always messing with them and like talking. They always chatting me about who they like or whatever. So they don't, I guess from their perceptions, they get 2 versions. They get Ryan and Kingston, I guess is what it is.
Yes.
So like, it was like this, everybody in the class was like, wait, what? Coach G's gay? Like, it was like this thing. So that's when they had me fucked up. Because it was like, first of all, little girl, you're in the 8th grade. You have no business.
They know so much though.
Asking,
They do.
saying that
By that
they
age.
know, oh my God.
So much.
They
Yeah.
know more than me. But yeah, that was when they had me fucked up.
It's your turn.
Wow. But wait, I just how did it end? Like, how did that resolve itself?
And it was like, it was very much like, so I was like, you have a consequence because first of all, I wasn't speaking to you. Everybody level 0 because we're playing a game. Because they were reacting like, oh my God. I was at level 0. First, let's address, yes, Coach Shee is a gay man. However, it's inappropriate for you to be addressing that type of stuff in this context. And I gave her a consequence and we moved on. And
so
then it
this
was
like you coming out and then you just moved on.
yeah, and it's also 2025, so the kids were kind of like,
yeah.
Okay, you know what I mean? It was like,
okay,
That's so.
right, it's like one more
a dime a
game.
dozen in New
Yeah.
York City.
I love that for
I
us.
know,
I
in my
love
opinion,
that.
and these are all African kids from in Harlem, African and
Yeah.
Hispanic kids from. So there was it was during Ramadan. You could see some of them. But the thing about it is that I love them. They were all it was never no. When they did, it was more of why would you say that versus,
right.
oh my God, he's gay.
Especially because it seems like you have their respect and trust, so they're kind of on your side. They probably was just gagged.
Right.
Like,
They're
why
like,
would wait, what? Because that's
Yeah.
the same thing I mentioned my sister. When I finally told her, she was like, oh my God. Why
She's
didn't
like,
you
tell me? Right.
She was pissed.
Oh, was she
pissed.
really?
She was pissed.
Wow.
She was like, because I was like, girl, you didn't see all the boys were calling me gay for a reason. And she was like, well, yeah, but I felt like if you was gay, you would have just said you was
something,
gay.
right.
It ain't no thing.
Right.
But
I love you.
No.
anyway.
My sister outed me, no shade.
Oh.
But I love my sister. We were very close. It was
It must have been time.
Yeah, it was. You want to know the story? Do we have time? You know
Yeah,
the story?
tell us.
Oh my God, my coming out was so dramatic. It was probably one of the craziest. It's a poem. Anyway, we're gonna talk about that. But it's
And we'll
coming
get
out in
into
a
the
project,
poetry
right?
next. You have a poem about being outed?
So there's shameless plug. I have a chapbook out. It's called Black Boy Magic. It's a anthology series that kind of works through the divulging of my experience coming of age, being black, gay, and Christian. And the book is structured as an exploration of those ideas and how they intersect individually. So there's the black, which is all the poems reconciling with my coming of age, being a black boy in this country, and it's also how it intersects with being gay and Christian. And then there's the magic section, which is all about my relationship with God, being black, gay, and Christian, and then the boys section with all of my understanding and learning myself as a black gay man and trying to reckon with those intersections and how those traumas meet. So, long story short, there is a poem
Can
that
we
I took.
pause for a second and just get into work business? What the fuck I'm talking about?
It's nothing, guys. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's
love
just a little
that.
artistry.
Wait.
Artistry.
Is there something we can hear from the book? Do you have a poem or
yes,
that could be recited for the girls?
Yes. The first, so it's so funny how God dropped in my spirit to write the book. I remember I was in prayer, I was in shut-in, because this is the moment where I finally got an apartment and I was going through an experience where I was like, all right, God, I know you've been talking to me for quite some time. Like, what the fuck is going on? These people keep telling me you don't love me because I'm gay and I'm going to hell and all this bullshit. And I'm like, I need to get to the bottom of this shit. So for 2 months, no, swear to God. Swear to God. So for 2 months, during a winter, it was a winter off when I was in college, and we get 2 months off for winter. I was like, I'm not going home. I'm going in shut-in. I'm seeking God's face, and I'm
What
trying
does
to
that
figure
mean?
this out.
Going in shut-in?
So shut-in was like, I would put myself on hard boundaries. So I would limit the amount of time I was on my phone. I would limit the amount of time that I was watching TV. I was fasting.
And when was this?
I was in prayer from like sun up to sundown. So that was like my junior year winter. So my junior year fall, I got an apartment. And I didn't have to go home. I had to deal with my mom. I had to deal with anybody telling me how I had to show up, what I had to look like, and like, et cetera, et cetera. So when I got my apartment and I got my autonomy to be like, Mom, I don't have to be in your house. I could stay here and be myself and blah, 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 blah. I used that time to kind of really dial into who I was and what I wanted to do in this world and who I wanted to be. And I felt a big contrast between performing as somebody for my mom and my family and my church family and still trying to like be this person who's going to advocate on behalf of queer resistance and the intersections of God and queerness. So long story short, I was in shut-in. I had a dream, and in the dream I saw this black boy in water, and I was like, I woke up. It was like a one of those sleep paralyses. Like I was aware, I was awake, I couldn't move, and all I could see was a black boy floating in water. And then I woke up out of the sleep paralysis, and just like words just started coming to me, and I was like, oh, let me write this down. And so it was the first poem of the book, and it's called Water Dancer, after Ta-Nehisi Coates, his book. And it goes, You can always tell a boy is still a boy when he speaks of his buoyant black body and is not scared of being lost at sea. Sometimes I wish that black boys knew the secret of the ocean, but most times I'm just grateful that something or someone keeps them afloat. And that was the first poem of the book.
I love that.
Mm.
Yes.
What do you? I mean, I guess I'm curious about what you want people to take away from that poem specifically, and what you want people to take away from the book as a whole.
I think people should take away whatever they want from it. I think it can be a lot. When I was writing it, or what I took away from it when it came to me, was that like through all of what life is in terms of the experience of being a black man in America, sometimes it feels like you are literally lost at sea. Like it literally feels like oppression is a wave. And every time you try and rise above, or you find somehow to make it to the surface, it's like another wave is crashing over you. But somehow your ass stay afloat. Somehow niggas make it, you know? And it's that context of sometimes I wish all of us could make it, and sometimes I wish that we didn't have to survive. We didn't have to be lost at sea, but I'm grateful for the fact that somehow we're still living.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
How do you find balance for all the things that you do?
My thing is doing things in season. So I'm aware, from my experience, it's like I sow certain things in certain time, and then I give it time to grow and return to it, right? So like with the book, it took me 2 years, a full year in college and a full year post grad to finish it. And for all my other creative stuff, it just happened in season. Like for instance, my first off-Broadway show, it was all happenstance. I graduated school. A friend who went to my alma mater became this incredible playwright, up-and-coming playwright, New York Theater Workshop, Playwrights Realm, you name it. Her name is Andrea Ambam, writer of Fragile State and 12 Angry Black Women, now being featured at New York Theater Workshop, which is the off-Broadway production theater that basically creates and curates and produces a lot of the work that we see on Broadway now. Long story short, she was an incredible playwright, and I came to New York for the second time after I was fun fact, I was auditioning for grad school. That's how I came to New York. I was auditioning for grad school for MFA program. I didn't get in. I went back home. I was like, oh my God, I need to move to New York. This is everything I need. My friend had a show, came to the show, met her, was interacting with her. She was doing incredible things. One of the people she was working with, we happened to have a conversation, and she was like, I want to work with you one day. And I was like, bitch, bet. Let me fly my ass about here and stop playing with me. So, and then just as literally the time frame that I got the job and I moved up to New York, her show was going up, and she asked me to audition. And I auditioned, awesome. And then ever since then, I've been following her career and like doing the things and like facilitating. So it's just in season. Like sometimes God.
How long has that been?
So I've been in New York. This is in September. It'll be 3 years. Okay. So it's been over the course of 3 years. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome.
Damn. So you do a lot of different things. What would you say is the most visceral dream you have for yourself right now?
Yes, that is short term. It would be getting into the trifecta of grad schools, NYU, Juilliard, Yale. Long term is I told myself I wanted to create a production company that's like centered around, like that's like a variation of like Sony meets A24, like this avant-garde, high context, well written, like bodies of work, and like exploring that realm. Long term. And then my big dream is I want to build networks of performing arts schools for at-risk kids. That's full tuition based, but private equity like funded, Hogwarts. Like I want it to be full castle, like dormitory. Like I want it to be this extravagant Ivy League performance arts level experience for kids K through 12.
Yes. Come on, creative Hogwarts.
Right, creative Hogwarts. I can't wait.
And you can do that. It says in here your faith is a interesting layered part of your personality. For many queer people, as you know, a lot of us either feel ostracized, cast out, alienated, you name it. You name it.
Right. Come on.
We experience that. We experience that from the faith-based community. And there's a big divide between faith and spirituality. How has religion been a part of your journey and making it and this far, you know?
Bitch. That is dense. Here's what I tell people. I knew God before I knew I was gay. I knew God before I knew myself because my experience required me to. I was like saved in the church at like 7. I was preaching at 9. I was a minister training. I was going to be an ordained minister at like 12, 13, 14. And as I was going through that experience, my parents were both elders in the church. Like they ran their own church service. I was basically a PK. And it turns out that my stepfather, who was doing all that stuff, was a gay man. Closeted gay man, profusely cheating on my mother. I was witnessing the whole thing.
Yikes.
Was interacting with other gay men in the community. They would come up, question me about shit. It was intense. My coming of age, being gay and Christian, was intense. Girl, the church carries. So with that came a lot of baggage to unpack. Because while I'm simultaneously being ridiculed by my mom for exhibiting feminine traits, you have a man in your bed that you know that the whole
She knew?
gay world, the whole church world, gotta know, had to have known, knows,
You had to have
had
known.
to have known,
You
knows,
had to have known.
knows.
You had to have known.
No.
You had to have known. You had
Okay,
to
no,
have
no,
known.
no, but yeah, had to have known that man was a power bottom. Right? So
Wait, Kingston.
okay,
He couldn't just be gay.
no,
he had
bitch,
to be a
was
power
Power
bottom.
bottom, baby. He was a woman.
Really?
Hunts.
And that's how you know how to clock them these days because I've seen it since I was a child, honey.
Seen it.
I've
Would it
seen
not just been better not to go to church and just live your life the way you want to live your
No,
life?
because I think here's the beautiful thing that I learned was that like no matter what, God is not removed from the individual that is their child. Regardless if you're going to be in the building or not, regardless if you're going to deal with the trauma or not, regardless of how people try and obscure faith or obscure religion to skew it in their perceptions or, you know, propagate shit that has been here as ancestral proofs to delegitimize and imprison Black people. Like, so I say all that to say, during my oasis, or I like to call it my shut-in, I did some digging. I created a podcast. It was called The Gay Jesus Freak, and I would basically.
Is that you?
Yeah,
The Gay Jesus
I was,
Freak.
like my whole tag was long
Ell
time.
doesn't like.
I swear to God, that was my tag was how it go. I used to say, "Long time no see. It's your favorite bottom RG. Welcome back to the Gay Jesus Freak." That was my shit. That was the thing. And every episode I would talk about different ways that historically people have misrepresented the gospel as a means to indoctrinate them based off history. Right. So we talked about King Harold's proclamation, about the Buggery Act and the institutionalized like prisoning and killing of people for performing buggery or anal sex. Compared that to the way that the King James Version was shortly commodified to then include the text that was a misrepresentation of the Leviticus 18 and 22 proverb that this is an abomination of God for a man to lay with a man. The original text we know which was mistranslated from a Germanic to English back in like 1965. I think I found out that it was initially in regards to men and boys.
Right.
And we all know that, right, to be true. But we recognize that, right-wing agenda setters and all of those have used fear-based mongering and delusions of grandeur.
They've been
to
twisting
indoctrinate-
language.
They're twisting language since the
bitch.
Bible, baby. Like, and I learned about the slave Bible. You learned about how they, took out portions of the Exodus to indoctrinate enslaved folks. Blah blah blah. I learned about how historically in the Cushites and the Nubians being related to the house of Jesse, which was the house of King David, which is the lineage of Jesus, which was that we know that we have proof that he was actually African. We know that in context of what we understand to be East Africa and Ethiopia have hit it being one of the only African nations not being sieged and conquered by a colonial power, also being the place of the Ark of the Covenant, which is a representation of God, and following the house of lineage and the stories of how, biblical figures being black, basically, and all of that stuff, right? And this just deracinating or cleaning out all of this bullshit that has been the co-opting of a inherently black faith. And the part of that helped me, answer that question, like deal with being gay and black, was me unlearning that, like, hey, these perceptions that people have been preaching from behind the pulpit is not actually how the spirit works. It's not actually how God operates. It's actually the antithesis of what Jesus' story tells us, of what any of the stories of the Bible tells us about how we should deal with otherized or different people, and all that good stuff. So, yeah, I'm a bad bitch. I'm a client, but I also love the Lord. So
I love that.
you know what I mean? Like,
I think my favorite
God
line
doesn't-
of this
Yeah.
century.
I'm a bad bitch.
I'm a bad bitch.
I'm a
cunt.
cunt, but I love the Lord. And God doesn't require us to compensate for who we are to meet them, and because we are the way that they intended. Like that poem, shout out another shameless plug with my house mother and OT Aoki. It was a poem I wrote to kind of obscure this reality where we're like, we try to demonize trans women for so many people, create this rhetoric or spew this rhetoric that there's like trans women are an abomination because they try and prove that God makes mistakes and God doesn't make mistakes, and as true, exactly. So I wrote a poem talking about the genesis of trans women and the magic it takes to be able to recognize yourself as the two spirit and lean in a direction, right? That power, that anointing you must have to be able to grapple with that experience, to have what is that but not like Holy Spirit possession, right? Like kind of obscuring these ways that we've tried to, objectify or ridicule people for not living in the cookie cutter experience that is propagated by white men. So all of that stuff is connected to the work I do and the truth I know about how my God operates. And you could check me, boo. And this happened. Like, I remember there was this one time, like, people used to comment, oh, the white people did not like that, the gay Jesus free. They did not like that. They used to comment under, this is blasphemy, this is da 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 da. And I would have like pastors come up under my comments and be like, he's actually not wrong. Theologians would come, because I'm a debater, so I'm gonna look at the Carfax. I'm gonna pull up the receipts. I'm gonna do the digging. I'm gonna pull up the Carfax, and you can't tell me that I'm wrong. Because that's what the words say.
I know that's right.
The words say, whosoever, in John 3:16, it said, now whosoever believeth in them shall not perish, but have everlasting life. Whosoever. Bitch, if a dog learn to speak and say, I love the Lord, that motherfucker going to heaven. So don't play with me, boo.
Is there any personal gospel that you live by?
You see why he wins in realness?
Right, and that's the twist. Okay. Right. And this is fully Ryan, right? This is the full experience. No, you are more than enough. You are made for this. Remember who you are and whose you are. Those are the biggest three things my mom has taught me that I've been like, okay, you're more than enough. You were literally made for this. When God created you, they saw your life ahead of you and said, I'm going to weaponize this motherfucker with everything they need before I set them out there and tell them to do it. So just know that before you has been this existential, all-powerful being that has been like, yeah, you can do it. So do it. And another thing is, during that process, there's going to be some motherfuckers and there's going to be some forces that are not flesh and blood, but principalities and powers and rulers of darkness in high places. And sometimes those high places are in your safe spaces. But there's going to be some people that are going to try and work against the thing that he set you out to do. So that's the part where you got to remember who you are and whose you are. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was our last question.
Ryan Gosling, everybody.
Hello.
AKA Kingston.
Kingston. You don't know what that means.
Where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram, on Facebook. On Facebook, it's kind of hard because my name is Ryan Gosling. But it's Ryan L. Gosling. Ryan L. Gosling. Instagram, it's 0. It's official, but it's spelled with a 0. RG. Also, shout out Black Boy Magic is in the bio if you want to click on it. And there's some interesting things you'll see on my Instagram. You'll see some shirtless body pics. You'll see some other things. But if you scroll down long enough, you'll see some of that poetry. You'll see some of that artwork. All that fun stuff.
Amazing. Y'all should go see it all.
Go see it.
Like,
Go see it all.
comment, subscribe to his shit. Like,
Period.
comment, subscribe to our
this
shit. Well, this has been another episode of Just Press Play with Ell and Trey.
And thank you so much for watching. Remember to, like we said, like, comment, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for a new episode coming up very shortly. Bye.
Bye.
And we're done.